Ben, if you would please.
Okay, am I right here? Okay, very good. All right, well, thanks everybody. I will be moving much more quickly, I promise, through this. But as Rick mentioned, I'm here to talk a little bit about a project that we're going to have going here at the co-op. And just out of curiosity, has anybody heard this phrase community solar before? Okay, a couple. All right, good. Well, so for many of you, this will be new. So I'm going to get around to it by kind of talking about some of the problems of rooftop. So Eric just did a wonderful job of talking about all the considerations that we should make if we're considering a rooftop installation or even a ground mount installation, something that's on our own property. But of course, the reality is that we have many members, we have many folks who are still interested in getting involved in solar in some way and getting involved in renewables for other reasons. And that interest is only growing higher and higher. And so we as a co-op want to be able to accommodate that up to a point and see what we can do to help folks who want to go solar have something that is economic and efficient and as good a project as they can get for what they're going for. Now, of course, this all starts with what are some issues with doing rooftop solar or solar at your house. And it's pretty easy to point out some. Sometimes you just don't have a good location because you're covered with shade. Sometimes you don't own your own property. I get the feeling that most of you in here are farmers or homeowners, but the point is that we do have many members who rent, who even if they wanted to put solar on their where they live, they can't. Sometimes you have a nice looking house, at least that was nice looking, and you don't want this to happen to it. And then of course, we all can dream of the worst case scenarios happening. And safety, liability, these kinds of things are always on our mind. Luckily, these sorts of instances are extremely rare, but the extremely rare instances are the ones we tend to worry about the most. So in addition to the pictures I mentioned above, Eric laid out a lot of the other sort of questions that you want to ask when you're thinking about a rooftop installation. So I talked about shading, owning, selling a home. Maybe you're even part of a homeowners association that won't let you put it on your roof, even if you wanted to. Liability, aesthetics, does it look good? And then you start talking about the financial issues. How old is your roof? Are you going to have to replace it before you even think about putting solar panels on it? And then I won't go into all these. Eric did a great job of enumerating all the different cost considerations you have to take that are not only cost considerations but time considerations as you have to go through and look over this and monitor it over the years. So the question that we wanted to ask is, what would a solar project look like at a cooperative? And the answer that we arrived at was that by working together, we would try to find something that was the most cost-effective option for everyone, that was open to all members, but that ultimately was a volunteer basis for participation. And so the question then that I asked to begin was, what is community solar? And the idea of community solar essentially is that you have a group of people that are interested in going solar for different reasons, but for some reason they can't, maybe they don't want to, they have concerns. Just create a program where you get the stuff off of their roofs, out of their property, and you build a centralized location, but still allow them the opportunity to be involved in the program directly in a way that doesn't necessarily make it just another utility generation resource that nobody is involved in, that's out there somewhere, something that you can actually be a part of. And so the advantages of community solar as compared to rooftop are numerous. The most important one perhaps is that you really can take advantage of scale here. And so the installed cost for a large ground-mounted installation can be about half of what it would be on an average rooftop installation. That's significant. Another one is optimized installation. Eric talked about shading concerns. Are you pointing the right way? All these other types of considerations. Who's going to be taking care of it? You might spend thousands of dollars to put something on your roof in year one. Are they coming back to take a look at it in subsequent years? Are you going to take a look at it? And if you're going to take a look at it, do you feel that you're qualified enough to know if there's issues, if it's running at 100% of what it ought to be doing? In this case, we're talking about an optimized installation. We're obviously not going to put this thing under a tree. We're going to be putting it where there's plenty of sun. We're going to point it in the right direction, and it's going to be installed and taken care of by experts. And then, again, some people rent, some people don't have options. This is something we can make available to everyone. And again, professional O&M. This is going to be taken care of by your co-op, who hopefully you trust well. I assume you do if you're here today. So there are reasons why, of course, we might be interested, why members would be interested in solar. For altruistic reasons, maybe you feel it's the right thing to do. Maybe you just think it's cool and think that it might be worth taking a look at. So why else would a co-op like Logan or the co-op of co-ops, Buckeye Power, be interested in doing a solar project? The main reason, of course, is to meet member needs and member desires. But there are other reasons. We do, like it or not, have to answer to people outside our own membership. And having a diverse supply of resources is very important in this. We are, of course, still heavily reliant on coal and natural gas for most of our generation resources for good reason. It's abundant and it's affordable and it's reliable. And so by trying to be good stewards of your dollars, we, of course, rely heavily on these fuels. But we have other considerations. We spend a lot of time, especially in Columbus, talking to legislators, talking to regulators. And it's a big concern of ours about what sort of other laws and regulations might be passed that would cause our costs to increase. And so it does benefit us, we believe, to get out ahead of these things, to have a diverse supply of resources, to have solar, wind, some of these renewables as part of our mix up to a certain point. It gives us the benefit of the doubt when we're talking to these regulators to say, we hear what your concerns are, we hear what the concerns of our members are, and we're doing something about it. As our members show interest in solar or other renewables, we're going to offer that to them and make sure that it's part of the mix. And by doing that, we can prevent these sorts of things by being forced upon us at costs that might be much more prohibitive than if we get out ahead of the problem ourselves. So, all that being said, I'm here tonight to introduce you to a project that's coming this summer. We're calling it Our Solar. And this is our community solar project for your co-op. And so this is essentially what we're looking at. So Logan has agreed to host a 50 kilowatt solar array, and it's going to be here at the office. This is a satellite shot of where we are. I believe we're all sitting right here. And so we're looking behind the office on, is this 11, Rick? 13? Okay. And so that's the site we're looking at. It's going to be facing out to the road and right here at the office. The total is going to be about 150 to 180 panels, if you're curious about the math. Since the question was asked earlier about the panel, I'll handle that now. This panel that we have here is an older 240 watt panel. The panels that will be installed as part of this project will be a little larger. They'll probably be 300 to 330 watts each. And so this dimension will be the same. This dimension will be about another foot. And a panel like that goes for about, we'll be getting it for probably about 67 cents a watt. So 67 cents times 300, about $200. That sound about right per panel? And so that's the cost of what you're looking at for a solar panel like that. So how is this going to work? How can essentially members sign up for this? I guess I want to make clear up front, we'll get into some of the financial stuff in a moment, but this is meant to be a program for members to participate in who want to be a part of the solar project. We in no way are ever going to pitch this as some sort of way of saving money. I think it would hopefully be obvious that if we felt strongly that solar was going to be saving us money from day one, we'd be installing it everywhere already because it would be saving us money. But we'll be totally honest about the costs. We want to be totally honest about passing through these costs to you and making it as cheap as possible if you want to be a part of this. So the way we plan on setting this up is that members can sign up. They can subscribe to the output of these panels. And we're going to open up for 1 to 10 panels each. Only reason why we're setting a limit at 10 panels is if we happen to have a lot of interest in the project right away, we don't want to exclude anyone. In case we have somebody who wants to sign up for 50 panels all by themselves and they have a few buddies that do the same, we're afraid about all those other folks who might have just signed up for 1 or 2 getting left out of the game. So that's why we're leaving a limit up front. I think we can relax that later on if some folks want to sign up for more and there are still some available. It's going to be $0 up front. We're going to pay as you go. The way we're going to look at this is that it is a different generation resource. So currently, Logan buys all of their power from Buckeye. It's one rate and it's all of our mix. So it includes the coal-fire generation, it includes the natural gas generation, as well as the portions of wind and bio and other renewable resources that we have as part of our portfolio. In this case, if you opt into this, you're going to say, for at least a chunk of my energy, I'm not gonna buy that standard mix. I'm gonna buy energy from the solar panel installed down at the Logan office. And so you'll just pay a different rate for that portion of energy coming from that panel. The projection we're making right now is that the cost to participate is gonna be less than $2 a month per panel for each panel you might sign up for. And so that'll be an incremental cost, is if you sign up to have a panel, on average, we expect it to cost less than $2 a month more than what you had been paying. And you can sign up for a term of 5, 10, or 20 years. I'll get into a moment in that. I'll get to a moment why the length of the term might be important to you. And so it all comes down to cost, of course. Again, I want to emphasize $0 up front. We want this to be open to everyone. We understand that some folks don't have any money to spend up front, and so for that, we want to make sure that you can pay as you go. And this is an important part, is that the generation from our solar is going to be paid at a fixed rate, not a variable rate. The current generation rate that you pay from Buckeye is about 7.1 cents. That's the generation that Logan buys generation for Buckeye for, and then passes that on to its members. And that 7.1 cents, of course, is an actual number. And that, as Eric showed, of course, we expect our generation rates to rise over time. And how fast you expect them to rise is an open question, dependent heavily on politics and regulations. One thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're passing on the cost for this solar exactly the way we experience it. And one thing about solar, as Eric mentioned earlier, is that it is something that that is somewhat pretty predictable over time. We can predict pretty well how much energy those things are going to put out on average over cost 25 years. We can predict what the O&M expenses are going to be. We can predict what our taxes, our insurance, all the costs that we incur are going to be. And so what we can do is we can convert that into a fixed flat rate. And so what that means is it's going to be a higher rate up front, but it will be fixed. So if you do feel that pessimistic about what generation rates might be, what government might do to impact coal-fired generation, and you might predict that those rates our normal rates are going to raise a lot faster than we think they are. Maybe a fixed rate of 9 cents that you can fix for 20 years sounds pretty good to you. If you, however, you think that we're going to be pretty good at holding off any potential regulations, and we're going to do a very good job of keeping efficient operations at our Cardinal plant and our other generation resources, and that 7.1 cents will no doubt climb, but climb pretty slowly, then a fixed rate of 9 cents over time probably doesn't sound good, at least economically, right? And so that's a decision that would ultimately have to be made up by you. Now, what I will provide here, just to satisfy any curiosity, is this is what this might look like over 20 years. And so again, any term of agreement you sign up for with this, we'll fix it at. Our best projection right now is 9 cents. We don't have that fixed yet because we don't have a firm price yet. It might wind up being 8.8, it might wind up being 9.1, but it's going to be right around the neighborhood of 9 cents. We know that. However, for what we don't know over time, of course, is what the generation rate is that you compare that to. It's 7.1 cents right now. What I've provided here in blue, this is the projection that Buckeye makes. We make a rate projection every year, and it goes out 10 years. And currently, the end of the projection ends 10 years from now, and it's at 8.5 cents. So even 10 years out, we're not projecting this number to cross over. Now again, a projection is as good as the assumptions and the numbers you plug into it. We are very confident that we plug the right numbers in. However, assumptions are just that. And some of the things that affect our rates most are legislative actions and regulations. And so if things like the Clean Power Plan go through, you can bet that the slope of that 7.1 cent is probably going to be a lot steeper. If it doesn't, it's probably going to stay about where it is. And then other unforeseen regulations and things that could happen, of course, could have an impact on that. But this is just meant to show that we can't necessarily say that this is going to be a moneymaker. If you sign up for a 20-year agreement and you say, I think that those lines are going to cross soon, and then after they cross, everything's gravy, that's certainly your call to make. And all we care to is just pass on to you the actual cost of this solar. And I guess one thing worth mentioning, if you're concerned about length of agreement or anything else, if you do put solar panels on your roof, you're essentially signing a 25-year agreement that you think is going to pay off over that time. And so ultimately, it'll be up to you. Now,
When will you know your fixed rate?
I'm sorry?
When will you know your fixed rate, your actual fixed rate?
Fixed rate, we'll know before we offer any agreements to sign up. We'll probably know that within the next couple of months. So, by the way, our best schedule projection is we hope to start building some of these things in mid to late summer. As Rick said, he wanted to get high on the list, so I'm hoping mid to late summer is when we'll hopefully be getting something coming here at Logan. And I'm sure that Rick and Michael and everyone else here at the co-op will be doing a great job of getting the word out as soon as we know when this is coming and letting you know what the rate's going to be and how you can sign up if you're interested. Now, one question, there might be many, but one question that always comes up immediately with this is, well, what happens if I move? You know, if I sign up for a 20-year agreement, things happen in 20 years, right? So we don't want to hold anyone to any agreement that life forces them out of. So if you move, you'll have a number of different agreements, different options. Of course, if you move within Logan service territory, these aren't attached to a house anymore, so those panels can move with you. If you move out of the area, you have a number of options. You can just transfer those panels to another member. Perhaps maybe you moved after these lines crossed and it actually looks like a good deal, and maybe you want to donate it to a friend because you're a real nice guy, or donate it to a church or somebody else that's in Logan's territory. Or if none of that sounds good, you can transfer them back to Logan, and that's fine too. Except in the case of moving or death, we will assign an administrative fee for getting in and out of it. And the only reason we do that is if somebody signs up and then just changes their mind before the term's done, we do want to make sure we're covering administrative costs in case this is going on a lot. We want to discourage that. We want people who sign up for it to be in it for the long haul, and of course give them options of getting out of it for life circumstances. But if somebody just changes their mind, we will charge an administrative fee for that. But aside from that, this is what the project is that's coming. We expect it to be here in late summer. There's going to be lots more details coming along the way. But this is what we hope is a good cooperative option for getting solar. In the grand scheme of things, this is a relatively small installation, 50 kW. Many farms that consider going solar look to go all the way up to 100 kW. So we're talking about 50 kW for an entire cooperative. The reason for that, of course, again, is that this isn't what we see as an economic project yet. But this is something that we've heard lots of interest in. And so we want to make sure that if there is interest, the co-op is being here to give members the best possible way of getting into solar and experiencing solar for themselves. And we think that that's what this can be. So having said that, Rick, if you want to come back up and we can field any questions you might have.
Sure.